There is no doubt in my mind that the Helldivers dev team are doing super well. However, the game still has its problems, and I want to take a look at the community reaction around the development team itself. And this here is not a frozen video. This is the game crashing at the end of a mission. This happens way too often, and I hope they sort this because it is super annoying when it happens. So I think the first place to start here is the developer's attitude to communications, because this is critical. When you've got a community built around a live service game, it is essential that you communicate to them in a, I guess, a fair and accurate way. You explain decisions, you explain what you're doing, because even if they disagree with you, it makes them feel part of the game's development. And if somebody feels part of something, yes, well, then they'll keep moaning about it. But that's a good thing, right? Even though most people won't moan. But, you know, you feel like you're part of a living world, a living system, a living thing. And it's great to feel involved as well. So I think any development studio out there that wants to communicate with its players is an absolute gem, and this is awesome behavior. So of course we've got this tweet here. Now this is from the CEO. This was from a few days ago, and this was in response to the blog post which came out explaining the patch. Now I know the patch has been controversial. People are for it, people are against it, and there's a lot of opinions either way. But what he's saying here in this tweet is essentially, look, we're giving you more detail behind why we've made the changes, and this is great because it lets you get into the mind of the development team, and you can start, you know, you can see what they're trying to do, right? We've nerfed X because of Y reason. Now, Y reason might be bad, but at least they're giving you a reason as to why they're doing it. It could also be good as well. So I'm all for this communication. Now, of course, this went south recently with one of the developers posting on Reddit, getting quite aggressive in some ways, calling the player base brainless. The CEO had to come out and basically say this: hey, thank you for bringing this up. This is not the intention from a studio perspective, but since I am a heavy subscriber of a communicative studio, it means that I encourage developers to engage with the community. However, this also exposes us to risks of miscommunication or heated arguments, and it's something that we actively discuss internally at the studio to improve on. While I understand that it reflects on the studio as a whole, it is not our intention that this should be the behavior from us. We want to ensure that you all have the best time possible in this game and its community. As for the balance patch, the opinions surrounding it, we actively read as much as we possibly can, and we take what it is said into consideration when we discuss things internally. Right now, the hot topic is your guys' feedback and response to the balance adjustments and the feeling of the game experience at large. So, this is a fantastic comment because, number one, it is not a PR washed comment. Now, what I mean by that is it has not been sent to the PR department for them to rewrite the message and then for the message to get posted. This is what Blizzard Entertainment do, and you guys know I've made tons of videos on Overwatch. And, you know, you see that throughout the history of Overwatch, especially Overwatch 2. Sometimes developers try to be themselves, but then they don't want to be. They want to be, you know, they've got to try and protect the game, protect the IP. It's difficult. Obviously, back in the days of Overwatch 1, you had Jeff Kaplan, who was very much himself. And that was his charm, whether you agreed with what the guy did and what he didn't do. He was very real with you when he communicated. And this is sort of how he would speak, you know, straight up, no messing about, no PR crap. So I hope they continue this communication. If the CEO says it's almost like a core tenet of the studio, then I expect to see more of this going forward. So what about you guys? What about the community? Well, I was wanting to put a video together talking about the development team and the way this game has just exploded onto the scene, because they are putting to shame a lot of AAA studios. And I mean, can you call Arrowhead a AAA studio? I think you probably maybe can now in some ways. But basically, they're a AA studio for all intents and purposes. But they are killing it when it comes to giving us what we want as a game, first and foremost, and then looking to build it out with additional content. Anyway, what do you guys think, right? Now, obviously, I know this isn't representative of you guys watching the video, but it's a place where we can look and we can go over to Reddit and we can take a look at what people are thinking over there, and we can throw some of our thoughts around. So I think we'll begin with this. Controversial opinion. I think the devs are doing a solid job so far. So for a start, that title is a bit stupid because obviously it's not controversial. The devs are doing an amazing job. They've released one of the best games of the year so far. Probably will be one of the best games of the year, full stop, or period. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's not really controversial. But anyway, things aren't perfect, but I'm still having fun even on higher difficulties. Arrowhead had to deal with the launch that exceeded everyone's expectations and spend the first couple of weeks in crisis mode and still managed to release some new content and patch some significant bugs along the way. Yes, a lot of things still need balance tweaks, but compare this to Kill the Justice League, a live service game from a much larger studio released around the same time, and it still has game-breaking bugs, let alone new content or balancing. Yeah, Justice League is terrible. No one's even playing it on Steam. I think it had about 200 players or something on Steam. It's a total flop, that game. It's just because that's a game that, you know, they're essentially just taking an IP and they're building a monetization platform, shoving the IP into it, and trying to make a game around it. And it's just crap. That's what happens when you've got, you know, the money people deciding the direction of your game, and that's not great. And, you know, like I said, to keep banging on Blizzard, that's the issue with Blizzard. The money people decide what goes on with the game. Obviously, with the Microsoft acquisition, things are a little bit different over there. But yeah, Arrowhead is a different proposition altogether. Anyway, really, my only requests currently are that transparency is increased. I don't think stealth nerfs and buffs help anyone. Now, this is in reference to there are a lot of changes that don't get documented. If you go and join the official Discord for Helldivers, sometimes they will explain, oh yeah, this was a stealth nerf, oh this wasn't added to the patch notes, or you know, the patch notes were literally too big, or we didn't have enough time to write the notes out before changes went into the game. So yeah, it is kind of annoying. In the future, I hope they can nail this down and you know, we get more complete patch notes moving forward. But remember, it's literally their first patch, so you've got to give them some slack. I'd simply like to know the change and the reasoning behind it, which allows for informed feedback from the players instead of inaccurate guesswork. Example, we increased the spawn rate of enemy patrols by 20% on higher difficulties because we believe the completion percentage of those missions should be around 75%, and we are seeing closer to 90%. As for the rest of the balance issues, I urge everyone to have just a little patience. Even if it's a change is bad, or even if a change is bad, it takes time to gather data on how it affected the flow of the game and confirm a revert is necessary. Okay. Remember that playing on higher difficulties is supposed to be hard. I agree that right now strategies are limited and often feel cheesy, but making improvements without completely destroying game balance takes time as well. If things still feel completely imbalanced weeks, months down the line, I'll be happy to pick up my pitchfork again. So the only reason why I moan towards the end of that paragraph there is this idea of like reverting stuff. Reverting stuff is, you would only do that in the most dire of situations. So obviously this user might be talking about or insinuating about the railgun, and I've been using that myself a lot recently. And if you can maximally charge that, I mean, it's the very fine line between killing yourself and having the full overcharge. You can still annihilate Bile Titans with a couple of shots to the head. You know, it makes them trivial. Like, you just turn around and go bang, 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 and they're dead. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, does the railgun need reverting back to the way it was? I don't know, probably not. But this user might be talking about other stuff as well. So this user comes in, and this actually is a really good comment because they just list a load of issues with the game. And this is totally fair because we can sit here and go, yeah, this game is fantastic. But as we move along down the line, as we play more of the game, things get more frustrating. I mean, I'm coming off the back of literally playing that game I showed you at the top. Well, you guys are seeing footage of it in the back of the video, but that game ending on a crash, and that's like a bitter taste, yeah? We put, I think, maybe 20 minutes into that mission, then it crashed. It's not great. But I've been playing with that person, and that was the final mission of the operation. But because the game crashed, that's it. Like, we can't carry that on. The guy's gone, you know, and I wanted to finish it with him. You know what I mean? But we couldn't. Anyway, yeah, it's just unfortunate. But this user says this. This is 100% it, more or less. I am not mad at a game being hard. I am mad when the issues in the game cause it to be unfair. Odds stacked against you, I get, but patrols spawning on you, being shot through terrain, enemies never drop aggro, enemies can see you through and properly track you through smoke, patrols straight beelining directly to your position, no matter if you've been stealth or loud, undocumented changes that severely alter the game and leaves a lot of us bewildered from enemies have higher stealth detection range to the absurd spawn rates. I'm annoyed, agitated and frustrated that a really good game is being held back by all these issues. I'm not complaining because it's hard. I'm complaining because it's a game I'm growing to love is being held back by some disastrously absurd issues. Now, I like this comment because this is a comment from somebody who's clearly put a ton of time into the game. And this is like almost seeing into the future. If you're like maybe, I don't know, level 5, 10, 15, whatever, you're still in that moment of, wow, everything's amazing. I can't believe this is so cool. Look at all these enemies. But as you keep playing the game more and as you keep doing the missions, you start to become more efficient at doing it. And then you get really annoyed when things are clearly broken. It's funny dying, you know, from random fire, but it's not funny. I mean, well, okay, this is funny. When you kill yourself with your own mech because you're turning the body and you fire the rocket, and for some reason the rocket explodes on the hitbox of the side of your mech and kills you. It's like, what? But that's fine, I'll take it. But yeah, what I'm saying is that as time goes on, you will notice more things. So it's up to the developers to fix this. And the question is, will they fix it? And I guess the other question is, if they do fix it, will they document that they fixed it? This user comes in and just straight up rips the OP apart and says, it's not controversial. The biggest complainers are also some of the biggest fans. Devs sometimes make iffy decisions like human beings do, but it's a great team and I think are doing a great job considering the circumstances. Given the complexity of game systems, it's almost immersive sim levels of complexity, and nailing the feel of a game that is very hard. They did a very good job, and I think we get upset if something doesn't feel right just because how amazing the game usually is. And this is a fair comment, yeah. You know, the developers have done a massive job here because they've launched the game and the game's gone nuclear. Then they've had to absolutely panic to try and increase server capacity to try and make sure the game functions with this number of players, which they just straight up didn't expect to have. So, it's a big achievement. But the point about the biggest complainers also being the biggest fans. Now, this is a thing, again, to use Overwatch as an example. You don't want your audience to be apathetic to your game, as in they just don't care, because then they don't even talk about your game. You would rather your audience get annoyed and start posting stuff on social media about your game because it shows that they like your game. You know, it's not, yeah, okay, sometimes it could be bad feedback, it could be good feedback, who knows? But at least they're engaged with your game and it shows that they've got passion. And I think that's the key thing. Whereas, you know, if nobody posted about your game is not being played by anybody, is it? So, yeah, pros and cons. This user talks about some of the bugs, which, like, yeah, he's not talking about Terminids, but yeah, actual bugs, and says this: I have one friend who can't play because the game will crash every couple of minutes because the CPU will spike to 100%. Now, I've had some crashes, and it's done this to me. I'll be on the Destroyer, and then the game freezes, and the CPU's at 100%. I'm like, what's going on here? And then I have to literally kill the task in Task Manager to get rid of it, and it's happened a few times as. So it's odd. But by far the most annoying bug to me is the crash at the end of the missions. I know they fixed one on extraction, eradication missions. I think there was some sort of bug. I don't know, but it seems to just happen way too often, and it's super frustrating. Anyway, and another cannot use the social tab or have people join his games. This one also had the hard crash issue for a while and had to do some effery to make the game playable. This user comes in and says, I think they're doing an awesome job, but I also think there are issues. I think the initial balance patch didn't actually address the issues that caused the balance, even if the changes were good ones. I will say this, actually, the initial balance patch kind of didn't matter because then they ramped up the spawn rates of the mobs. If they've just kept the game how it was and just increased the spawn rates, I think we would have been playing a completely different game now. The railgun still would have been mega strong, you know, and all the other weapons being super strong as well. So it you know, it would have been a different game. I think the mistake looking back at it is they shouldn't have changed enemy spawn rates and weapon power levels at the same time, because that is a... How can you test what the outcome of the change is from the weapon balance there? It's an odd one. And this obviously made us feel like we were getting swamped because the tools that we had for the job, for killing the chargers, the Bile Titans and whatnot, were just no longer as effective. Although, like I said, I do think Railgun is still pretty good. It just takes a lot more almost patience to use it now. You have to kind of be, I don't want to say skillful, but you have to be more, well, I guess patient. You just need to be more patient using it. Anyway, this user goes on to say, as a result, a lot of people, myself included, got really scared that the experience they had been loving so far was not the ones the devs intended, and that what the devs wanted to experience to be just isn't nearly as much fun. There is also a lot of bugs, big and small, and that can't be ignored either. Arrowhead is doing an amazing job, and I hope they continue doing an amazing job, but it doesn't erase the issues that there are. And all of that's totally fine, you know. There's going to be issues with a game like this. It is a complex game. There's a lot of different systems interacting together. Things are going to happen. There's going to be stupid stuff happening. There'll be more bugs as the game gets updated with more content. You know, things are going to be problematic, but it comes down to the development studio. Can they react fast enough? And I've got to say, guys, what I've seen so far, and you know, I've been covering games for years and years now, this development studio has come straight out of the gates with communication. You know, their level of communication is like far and above what we've seen from some massive game studios. So I think they've got a really, really strong start. And yeah, I hope they just build off that. This user comes in and says this: complaining doesn't mean you hate the devs. This weird dev worship thing people have is so weird. People are allowed to like a game and still complain when certain decisions are made. Seeing people have valid complaints and conflating it with, grr, you don't agree with the dev, gods, you're bad, is a bad mindset. And it is. And this is why I wanted to put this towards the end of the video, because God worship and hero worship of devs and things like this, yeah. Like, at the end of the day, the developers are making the product, and it is a product that you have bought. It is a product that you are playing. So you do have the, the freedom to say what you like about this product. Yeah, you can say, I do not like this weapon. Will that hurt the feelings of the dev that made that weapon? Probably, if they read that comment, But at the end of the day, you have parted hard-earned cash. You can say what you like about these things. But developers are still people. They're not just machines, mindless machines that are going to pump content out. I've always been a strong advocate of support the developers, but never, ever, ever go out of your way to attack developers. If there's a problem with the game, just focus on the game. Don't focus on who might have implemented it or who made that decision. Just go, we don't think this works, and that's why. I've often found that in many interactions I've had with developers, the best way to approach it is to be honest and try and be level-headed, especially if you're giving feedback. Don't go in with all of the hype and the energy of like, oh my god, like, so if that game, it just crashed, right, that I showed you at the top of the video, if that crashed and I had like one of the developers on speed, I'd ring them and go, oh my god, what the hell, the game just crashed, are you joking me, this is terrible, you need to fix this. That doesn't help anything, does it? But obviously me saying the game has crashed, it's not great, here's a crash report or whatever, that would help them a bit better. But anyway, it is a complex relationship. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the video. I think this game has the potential to be a game that we're all going to play for a long time in the future. Now, it's going to depend on if they can sort the balance out and keep the balance strong, if they can keep adding new content to the game, if they can fix bugs, how fast they do all of those three things I've just mentioned as well. And the fourth one is keeping open communication. And then the fifth one is keeping the audience engaged in the game. And I reckon, and I know this game, the way it delivers the live service portion, is just going to keep people coming back to find out what's going on, to take part in the galactic war. It's almost like a genius take on live service games. This sort of like, it's almost like immersive storytelling in a lot of ways. I know I'm sort of going over the top here, but it's like, yeah, you feel like you're part of it, and I think that's just awesome. I feel immersed in it anyway. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Remember, if you really do like the videos, do like the video. It helps an absolute ton. YouTube loves it. Leave a comment below and subscribe to the channel if you want some more. And yeah, I'll catch you lovely lot on the next one. See you soon.
Reloading. Freedom forever.